Admiral Marcus Kane stood on the bridge of his massive warship watching the stars through the giant viewing window. His ship was called the Sovereign, and it was one of the biggest and most powerful vessels in the entire Galactic Empire fleet. The Empire had ruled over thousands of worlds for more than 3,000 years, and Marcus had spent his whole life serving it with pride and honor. Today should have been just another day of routine patrol duties in the outer rim sectors where nothing important ever happened. The Empire kept detailed records of every single planet and species in the galaxy, so Marcus knew exactly what to expect in every star system they visited. There were no surprises anymore because everything had been mapped and cataloged long. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Brooks sat at her communication station, running through the daily reports when something strange appeared on her screen. She had been working communications for 15 years and had never seen anything like the signals that were now flooding her equipment. The readings made no sense at all and seemed to be coming from a sector that should have been completely empty except for a few primitive worlds. "Sir, we are getting some very odd transmissions from the outer rim," Lisa said as she tried to make sense of what her instruments were telling her. "There seems to be some kind of battle happening in the Terran system, but that cannot be right, because nothing there has space travel technology." Marcus walked over to look at her screen and felt his stomach drop when he saw the energy readings. The numbers were impossible because they showed massive weapons being fired and ships exploding. But the Empire records clearly stated that the Terran system contained only primitive life forms who had just learned to make simple metal tools. Commander Jake Morrison was the ship's intelligence officer, and he spent most of his time studying reports about alien civilizations and their capabilities. He rushed over to his workstation and began pulling up every file the Empire had about the Terran system, while his hands shook with confusion and fear. "Admiral, I am looking at our records right now, and they show that the third planet in that system has a species called humans who are barely past the Stone Age," Jake said as he scrolled through page after page of survey data. "The last report says they had just invented gunpowder and were fighting wars with metal swords and wooden ships." Lisa's communication equipment suddenly exploded with desperate voices speaking in the harsh language of the Zephyrian Empire. Zephyrians were a brutal warrior race that had been expanding their territory by conquering weaker civilizations and enslaving entire populations. They were known throughout the galaxy for their cruelty and their powerful military forces. "Sir, the Zephyrian invasion fleet is sending emergency distress calls," Lisa reported as she listened to the frantic messages. "They are screaming about unknown ships that appeared from nowhere and are destroying their entire battle group. They say the enemy vessels are using weapons they have never seen before." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine because he knew that the Zephyrians had sent over 200 of their best warships to conquer the Terran system. It was supposed to be an easy victory against a helpless primitive world that could not possibly fight back against advanced alien technology. The Zephyrians had done this same thing hundreds of times before, and always won quickly and completely. Jake pulled up the tactical display showing the real-time battle data, and what he saw made him gasp in shock. The Zephyrian fleet was being torn apart by weapons that produced energy signatures unlike anything in the Empire database. Ship after ship was exploding or simply vanishing from the sensors as if they had never existed at all. "Admiral, this is impossible," Jake whispered as he watched the destruction continue. "According to our intelligence, the Zephyrians have enough firepower to destroy an entire planet, but something is cutting through their defenses like they are made of paper." Marcus had commanded Imperial fleets for over 30 years and had fought against every known enemy in the galaxy. He had seen the Empire defeat rebellions and crush invasions, but he had never witnessed anything like the complete annihilation that was happening in the Terran system. Whatever was destroying the Zephyrian fleet possessed technology that seemed to be at least equal to the Empire's most advanced weapons. "Get me a direct connection to Imperial Command immediately," Marcus ordered as he tried to process what he was seeing. "We need to report this situation to Grand Admiral Carter right away because this changes everything we thought we knew about the sector." The main viewing screen flickered and then showed the serious face of Grand Admiral Helen Carter, sitting in the war room at Imperial headquarters. Behind her, dozens of analysts were working frantically at computer terminals displaying the same battle data that Marcus was watching from his ship. Admiral Kane. I can see that you are monitoring the situation in the Terran system, Helen said, without any greeting or small talk. Our sensors are picking up the same readings, and our best scientists are trying to figure out what kind of technology could produce these results. Marcus looked at the tactical display again and saw that less than half of the original Zephyrian fleet was still intact, and those remaining ships were fleeing the system as fast as their engines could carry them. In less than 1 hour, a massive invasion force had been reduced to scattered survivors running for their lives. Grand Admiral, we need to understand what we are dealing with here, Marcus said as he studied the energy patterns from the unknown. Weapons. If there is a civilization in this galaxy that we do not know about, and they have this level of military capability, then the Empire could be facing a serious threat. Helen nodded grimly because she understood the implications of what they were seeing. The Empire had maintained its power through superior technology and overwhelming force, but if humanity had somehow developed weapons that could match Imperial capabilities, then everything would have to change. Admiral Kane, I want you to maintain your position and continue monitoring the situation, Helen commanded. Do not approach the Terran system under any circumstances until we know more about what we are dealing with. I am calling an emergency session of the Imperial Council to discuss our response to this development. Marcus acknowledged the orders and settled in to watch and wait while his mind raced with questions that had no answers. In 3,000 years of Imperial expansion, they had never encountered a completely unknown spacefaring civilization, and the implications were terrifying to consider. Dr. Amanda Foster stood in the emergency meeting hall of the Imperial Senate building, looking at the faces of the most powerful people in the galaxy. As the Empire's top expert on alien life forms, she had been called to explain how an unknown civilization could have appeared without warning and destroyed a major military fleet in just 1 hour. The senators and military commanders filling the chamber had ruled over thousands of worlds for generations, and they were not used to being surprised by anything. The Empire's vast network of spies and survey teams kept detailed records of every planet and species so that nothing could threaten Imperial security without advance warning. Honored senators, what we witnessed in the Terran system should be completely impossible according to everything we know about how civilizations develop, Amanda began, as she activated the holographic display showing the battle data. The energy signatures from these unknown weapons suggest technology that is at least equal to our own and possibly superior in some areas. Senator Richard Hayes was one of the oldest and most experienced members of the Imperial Council, and he had overseen the conquest and integration of dozens of alien civilizations during his long career. He leaned forward in his chair and studied the weapon analysis with growing alarm and confusion. Dr. Foster, are you telling us that some primitive backwater species has independently developed Imperial-level technology without any outside assistance? Richard asked as he tried to understand how such a thing could be possible. Our surveys showed that these humans were still using chemical rockets just a few decades ago. Amanda nodded and pulled up the comparative development charts that showed how long it normally took for a species to advance from basic spaceflight to interstellar warfare capabilities. The numbers were clear and consistent across every known civilization in the galaxy. The weapon signatures indicate directed energy systems that our own fleet would have difficulty countering, Amanda continued as she highlighted the technical specifications. But what makes this truly disturbing is that we have no record of this species ever achieving faster than light travel or building anything more advanced than primitive space stations. Captain Danny Wright had recently been promoted to head the Empire's Reconnaissance Command after spending 20 years exploring unknown regions of the galaxy. He stepped forward with a data tablet containing the complete survey history of the Terran system. Dr. Foster, I have been reviewing our intelligence files on the human homeworld, and the information simply does not match what we just witnessed, Danny said as he shared his findings with the assembled officials. The last comprehensive scan of their planet was conducted 47 years ago, and at that time the dominant species had just begun experimenting with chemical rocket propulsion. The meeting hall fell completely silent as everyone tried to process the implications of what they were hearing. 47 years was barely a moment in galactic terms, since most civilizations required thousands of years to progress from chemical rockets to weapons that could threaten Imperial warships. Senator Hayes stood up and began pacing around the chamber as he tried to make sense of the impossible situation. He had spent his entire life believing that the Empire knew everything about every corner of the galaxy, and the idea that an entire civilization could develop advanced technology without detection was deeply disturbing. This cannot be correct, Richard declared as he waved his hand at the holographic displays. No species in recorded history has ever developed this rapidly, without receiving advanced technology from another civilization. Someone must have given these humans weapons and ships, or they could never have achieved this on their own, Amanda pulled up another set of charts showing the theoretical maximum rate of technological development based on mathematical models that had been tested against hundreds of different species. Even under the most optimistic conditions, no civilization should be able to make such massive advances in such a short period of time. I have run the calculations 17 different ways using every known variable, and the results are always the same, Amanda explained as she pointed to the mathematical projections. Even with unlimited resources and perfect conditions, it would take at least 3 centuries for any species to make the technological leap that humans appear to have accomplished. Grand Admiral Helen Carter joined the meeting through a secure video connection from her command ship, where she was coordinating the Empire's response to the crisis. Her face appeared on the main viewing screen and everyone could see the concern and confusion in her expression. Dr. Foster, we need to consider the possibility that human technological development follows patterns that we have never encountered before, Helen said as she reviewed the latest intelligence reports. Our mathematical models may not apply to a species that operates under completely different principles. Amanda had been thinking about this possibility ever since the first reports arrived from the Terran system, and she had been running computer simulations to test various theories about rapid technological advancement. The results were disturbing because they suggested that humans might be capable of things that no other species had ever achieved. Admiral, there is a theoretical condition that we call exponential innovation cascade, where technological advancement accelerates beyond normal parameters, Amanda explained as she brought up the simulation results. If a species somehow triggers this condition, they could potentially advance from chemical rockets to interstellar warfare in just a few decades. Captain Wright studied the energy readings from the battle site and tried to understand how the human weapons worked based on their electromagnetic signatures. The technology appeared to be completely unlike anything in the Imperial arsenal, which suggested that humans had developed their own unique approach to warfare. Admiral, we need to establish contact with this species immediately, Danny recommended, as he analyzed the tactical implications of the situation. If they can advance this quickly, then they represent either our greatest potential ally or our most dangerous possible enemy. Helen's expression grew even more serious as she considered the options available to the Empire. The standard protocol for dealing with new civilizations involved either peaceful integration into the Imperial system or military conquest if they refused to submit to Imperial authority. I am authorizing first contact protocols, but we will proceed with extreme caution, Helen announced to the assembled officials. Any species that can annihilate a Zephyrian battle group in minutes deserves our complete attention and respect, Senator. Hayes returned to his seat and looked around the chamber at his colleagues who were all trying to process the reality of their situation. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Empire was facing something completely unknown and potentially beyond their ability to control. What if they refused to join the Empire? Richard asked quietly, as he voiced the fear that everyone was thinking, but nobody wanted to discuss. What if these humans decide that they want to remain independent and resist any attempt to bring them under Imperial authority? The meeting hall fell silent again, as everyone contemplated the possibility of a war against an enemy whose capabilities they did not understand, and whose technology might be superior to their own. Commander Alex Turner stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty, watching the tactical display with quiet satisfaction as the last of the alien invasion ships fled from Earth's solar system. The battle had lasted less than 2 hours, and the enemy fleet of over 200 warships had been completely destroyed or scattered with minimal effort from humanity's new defense forces. The Liberty was humanity's first true warship designed specifically for combat against alien invaders, and it represented the culmination of the most intensive technological development program in human history. When the first alien scout ships had been detected at the edge of the solar system 3 months ago, every nation on Earth had immediately united to face the common threat. Chief Engineer Claire Davis worked at her station monitoring the performance of the ship's revolutionary quantum disruptor weapons that had made short work of the invasion fleet. The technology was so new that the engineering manuals were still being written, and every battle provided valuable data about how to improve the systems. Commander, all weapon systems are operating within normal parameters, and we have used less than 30% of our available firepower, Claire reported as she reviewed the battle statistics. The quantum disruptors performed exactly as designed, and we could have engaged twice as many enemy ships without any difficulty. Alex nodded as he studied the sensor readings that showed multiple large vessels approaching from the direction of the galactic core. These new contacts appeared to be much more sophisticated than the primitive invasion fleet they had just defeated, and their energy signatures suggested advanced technology. Sarah, get me a direct communication link to Earth Command, Alex ordered. His communications officer, Lieutenant Sarah Adams, who immediately began establishing the secure connection. General Collins needs to know about these new arrivals, and we need instructions on how to proceed. The main viewing screen flickered and then displayed the underground command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, where General Peter Collins coordinated Earth's defense efforts. Behind him, dozens of technicians monitored displays showing the approaching Imperial fleet and the status of human forces throughout the solar system. Commander Turner, we are tracking the new contacts from here, and our analysis suggests they represent a much more advanced civilization than the previous attackers, Peter said as he reviewed the intelligence reports. How are our weapon systems performing against alien technology? Alex allowed himself a small smile of pride as he thought about how far humanity had come in such a short time. When the alien threat was first discovered, every scientist and engineer on the planet had worked around the clock to develop the technologies needed to defend their world from conquest. The quantum disruptor arrays exceeded all expectations and completely overwhelmed the enemy defenses, Alex reported as he shared the technical data with Earth Command. We destroyed or disabled over 150 alien warships without taking any significant damage to our own vessels. The quantum disruptor technology represented humanity's greatest breakthrough in the field of weapons development, and it had been created by teams of scientists working in secret facilities hidden around the globe. The weapons could tear apart matter at the subatomic level, making even the most heavily armored alien ships vulnerable to human attack. Lieutenant Adams suddenly looked up from her communication station with an expression of surprise and curiosity as new signals began appearing on her equipment. The transmissions were unlike anything they had received before and seemed to be using mathematical constants as a universal language. Sir, we are receiving a communication from the approaching fleet, Sarah announced as she analyzed the signal patterns. They appear to be using basic mathematical principles as a foundation for establishing contact, which suggests this is some kind of first contact protocol. General Collins leaned forward in his command chair and studied the intelligence reports about the new alien fleet that was approaching Earth. The ships were much larger than the previous invaders, and their technology appeared to be significantly more advanced based on their energy signatures. Put the transmission through, Lieutenant, Peter ordered as he prepared to make first contact with what appeared to be a galactic empire. Let us see what these aliens want and whether they come in peace or war. The screen split to show both Earth Command and the face of Grand Admiral Helen Carter, whose expression was carefully controlled, but showed obvious wariness and concern. Her uniform and ship design suggested a highly organized military force with vast resources and experience. Unknown vessel, this is Grand Admiral Carter of the Galactic Imperial Navy, Helen said in a formal tone that indicated she was following established diplomatic procedures. We seek peaceful communication regarding your recent military action against the Zephyrian invasion fleet in this sector. Alex stepped forward and activated the ship's external communication system so his voice would be transmitted to the alien fleet. He had been chosen to command the Liberty partly because of his diplomatic skills and ability to remain calm under pressure. Admiral Carter, this is Commander Turner of the United Earth Space Command. Alex replied in an equally formal tone. "The vessels you mentioned entered our solar system with clearly hostile intentions and were dealt with according to our rules of engagement for defending our homeworld." Helen's carefully maintained composure slipped slightly as she processed what she was hearing. According to Imperial records, the human species had achieved basic spaceflight only a few decades ago and should not have possessed the technology needed to defeat a Zephyrian battle group. "Commander, our records indicate that your species achieved interstellar travel capabilities only recently," Helen said as she tried to understand how humans had developed such advanced weapons so quickly. How is this level of technological development possible in such a short period of time? Dr. Kevin Ross appeared on a secondary communication channel from his research laboratory on Luna Station, where he had been working on improvements to human weapon systems. As humanity's chief scientist, he had coordinated the global research effort that produced the quantum disruptor technology. "Admiral, humanity has always had a unique approach to solving problems," Kevin explained as he joined the conversation. "When we are faced with an existential threat, we tend to innovate and adapt much more rapidly than normal circumstances would suggest." Alex could see Admiral Carter exchanging glances with her staff officers as they tried to process the implications of rapid human technological development. The concept of a species advancing from chemical rockets to interstellar warfare in just 47 years clearly disturbed them. "Commander Turner, the Galactic Empire has maintained order and stability across thousands of worlds for over 3 millennia," Helen continued as she began explaining the Imperial system. "All spacefaring civilizations must register with Imperial authority and accept integration into our governmental structure." Alex felt his expression harden as he understood what the Admiral was really saying. The aliens expected humanity to submit to their rule and become another conquered species in their vast empire, just like countless other civilizations before them. "Admiral, with all due respect, humanity does not accept subjugation under any circumstances," Alex replied firmly but politely. "We are prepared to discuss trade agreements, diplomatic relations, and mutual cooperation, but we will never accept anyone as our rulers or masters." The communication channel fell silent for several long moments as both sides considered the implications of what had just been said. The Galactic Empire was accustomed to dealing with primitive civilizations that had no choice but to submit to Imperial authority, but humanity clearly represented something completely different. The Imperial War Council convened an emergency session aboard the massive space station Hegemon, which served as the Empire's mobile command center and could house over 50,000 military personnel. Admiral Helen Carter stood before the assembled senators and military commanders, feeling the weight of a decision that could determine the future of galactic civilization. The holographic star map dominating the center of the chamber showed the Terran system surrounded by dozens of Imperial fleet positions as military strategists tried to understand how to deal with a species that refused to accept Imperial authority. For 3,000 years, the Empire had maintained peace through superior technology and overwhelming force, but humanity represented an unprecedented challenge. "Honored senators, we are facing a situation that has never occurred in recorded Imperial history," Helen began as she activated displays showing human military capabilities. "The humans have categorically rejected our standard integration protocols and have demonstrated weapons technology that rivals our own most advanced systems." Senator Patricia Bell studied the tactical assessments with growing alarm as she tried to understand how a species that had been using primitive rockets just decades ago could now threaten Imperial warships. She had overseen the integration of dozens of alien civilizations and had never encountered anything like the rapid development that humans had achieved. "Admiral Carter, please explain to this council how it is possible for any species to advance from chemical propulsion to quantum weapons in less than 50 years, Patricia demanded as she reviewed the intelligence reports. "Our xenobiological experts insist that such development is mathematically impossible under normal circumstances." Dr. Amanda Foster stepped forward to present her latest analysis of human civilization and the factors that had enabled their unprecedented technological advancement. She had spent weeks studying human culture and history, trying to understand how they had accomplished what should have been impossible. Senator, the humans appear to operate under completely different developmental paradigms than any species we have previously encountered, Amanda explained as she shared her research findings. While most civilizations develop steadily over thousands of years, humans seem to experience sudden bursts of innovation when they are faced with external threats or challenges. Commander Danny Wright nodded in agreement as he presented intelligence gathered from monitoring human communications and activities. His reconnaissance teams had been observing the Terran system constantly since the first contact, and the data they collected was deeply disturbing to Imperial strategists. Our surveillance indicates that when the humans detected the approaching Zephyrian fleet, they immediately redirected their entire global economy toward military research and development, Danny reported as he displayed economic statistics. Within 18 months, they had built 17 major shipyards, 36 research facilities, and completely restructured their educational system to focus on advanced sciences. Senator Richard Hayes listened to the reports with increasing disbelief. As he tried to comprehend the scale of human mobilization, he had witnessed many civilizations prepare for war, but had never seen anything approaching the total commitment that humanity had demonstrated in response to the alien threat. You are telling us that their entire species mobilized for war in less than 2 years, Richard asked as he studied the industrial production figures. How is such coordination possible without a centralized imperial government to direct their efforts? Amanda pulled up cultural analysis data, showing how human societies had responded to existential threats throughout their history. The patterns were consistent and suggested that humans possessed unique psychological and social characteristics that enabled rapid adaptation to changing circumstances. Senator, humans have a concept they call necessity being the mother of invention, Amanda explained as she highlighted examples from human history. When faced with threats to their survival, they appear capable of innovation and cooperation that exceeds normal species parameters. Admiral Carter activated tactical displays showing the current positions of human and imperial forces as both sides prepared for a potential conflict. The humans had spent the past month upgrading their defenses and had apparently developed new weapon systems that imperial sensors could not fully analyze. They have constructed 43 vessels of various classes, all equipped with quantum disruptor weapons, Helen reported as she reviewed the latest intelligence. Our tactical specialists estimate that each human ship could engage and destroy at least 3 Imperial vessels before being neutralized. The chamber fell completely silent as the implications of those numbers became clear to everyone present. The Empire had maintained galactic dominance through technological superiority, but if humanity could match their capabilities, then the entire Imperial system was at risk of collapse. Commander Wright shared additional intelligence about human military doctrine that made the situation even more concerning for Imperial planners. Human approaches to warfare appeared to be fundamentally different from anything the Empire had encountered in 3 millennia of expansion. There is something else we must consider about human military capabilities, Danny continued as he presented cultural analysis data. Human warfare doctrine appears to be based on something they call total war, which involves using every available resource to achieve victory, regardless of the cost. Senator Bell leaned back in her chair as she considered the strategic implications of fighting against a species that was prepared to sacrifice everything for independence. The Empire had always relied on the assumption that rational civilizations would eventually submit, rather than face complete destruction. What are our military options, Admiral? Patricia asked as she tried to understand what choices the Empire had for dealing with the human problem. Can we negotiate some kind of compromise, or must we prepare for armed conflict? Helen had been consulting with her strategic advisors for days, trying to develop options that would preserve Imperial authority while avoiding a potentially devastating war against an enemy whose capabilities were still largely unknown. We have 3 possible courses of action, Helen replied as she outlined the alternatives. First, we could attempt to negotiate a treaty recognizing human independence and granting them equal status with the Empire. Second, we could launch a full-scale military assault before they become even stronger. Third, we could attempt to form some kind of alliance that benefits both civilizations. Senator Hayes shook his head vigorously as he considered the precedent that would be set by granting equal status to such a young civilization. If humanity received recognition as an independent power, other species might begin demanding similar treatment, and the entire imperial structure could unravel. Granting equal status to a species that achieved interstellar flight in less than 5 decades would set an extremely dangerous precedent, Richard declared as he thought about the political implications. Every primitive species in the galaxy would expect similar treatment, and imperial authority would be undermined. Dr. Foster presented additional analysis about human psychology and behavior patterns that suggested the species might be even more dangerous than their technology indicated. Human culture appeared to value independence and freedom above survival, which made them unpredictable opponents. There is another factor we must consider about human capabilities, Amanda warned as she shared her psychological assessments. Human military history shows repeated examples of seemingly hopeless conflicts where they emerged victorious through sheer determination and willingness to continue fighting regardless of casualties. The War Council continued for hours as Imperial leaders tried to find a solution to a problem that had no clear answer. The neutral space station Harmony floated in the void between Imperial and human space, serving as the site of the most important diplomatic meeting in galactic history. The station had been designed to accommodate dozens of different alien species, and its diplomatic chambers could adjust environmental conditions to suit any known life form in the galaxy. Commander Alex Turner led the human delegation as they docked with the massive station, accompanied by Dr. Kevin Ross and Ambassador Janet Green, who had been hastily appointed as humanity's first official representative to alien civilizations. The weight of their decisions would determine whether humanity remained free or faced conquest by the most powerful empire in the galaxy. Admiral Helen Carter arrived with a full Imperial diplomatic corps, including Senator Patricia Bell and Dr. Amanda Foster, along with representatives from dozens of member species who watched the negotiations through secure communication links. The meeting chamber seemed almost too small for the magnitude of the decisions that would be made within its walls. Commander Turner, the Galactic Empire has successfully maintained peace and order across thousands of star systems for over 3 millennia, Helen began in a formal tone as she outlined the Imperial position. Your species' rapid technological development and military capabilities have created a situation that we have never encountered before in our long history. Alex nodded respectfully as he considered his response, carefully knowing that every word could have consequences for billions of people on both sides. Humanity had spent weeks preparing for this moment and had developed detailed proposals for a new type of relationship between independent civilizations. Admiral Carter, humanity has no desire for conquest or territorial expansion beyond our own solar system, Alex replied as he presented the human position. We simply wish to exist as a free and independent species, but we are prepared to defend ourselves against any attempt at subjugation, regardless of the cost. Ambassador Janet Green stepped forward with a data tablet containing humanity's formal, diplomatic proposals that represented months of careful planning by Earth's best political and military minds. The document outlined a completely new approach to interstellar relations that had never been attempted before. The human government proposes establishing a new type of relationship based on equal partnership rather than imperial integration, Janet announced as she shared the proposals with the assembled diplomats. We offer to share certain defensive technologies in exchange for full recognition of human sovereignty over our territory. Senator Bell reviewed the human proposals with obvious surprise as she tried to understand what humanity was offering in exchange for independence. The idea of sharing advanced military technology with other species went against everything the Empire had done for thousands of years. You are prepared to share quantum disruptor technology with other civilizations, Patricia asked as she studied the technical specifications. Why would you give away your military advantages when they are the only thing protecting your independence? Dr. Ross smiled as he explained the human philosophy behind the offer that reflected humanity's unique approach to interstellar relations. Unlike other species who hoarded technology for competitive advantage, humans believed that mutual security benefited everyone. Senator Humanity operates on the principle that advanced weapons in the hands of responsible civilizations promote peace through mutual deterrence. Kevin explained as he outlined the strategic reasoning. We are also prepared to share our rapid development methodologies with species that face external threats. Dr. Foster leaned forward eagerly as she considered the implications of gaining access to human innovation techniques that had enabled their unprecedented technological advancement. The opportunity to understand how humans achieved such rapid progress could benefit every civilization in the galaxy. Commander, our scientists would be extremely interested in studying human innovation methods, Amanda said, as she thought about the research possibilities. Your species has accomplished in decades what typically requires millennia of development. Alex exchanged glances with his team as they considered how much information to share about human capabilities and methods. They had prepared for this moment by developing detailed proposals that would benefit both civilizations while protecting humanity's core interests. Dr. Human innovation is based on what we call collaborative competition, Alex explained as he shared examples of how the quantum disruptor technology had been developed. When we face challenges, we do not just assign our best scientists to solve problems but engage entire populations in research efforts. Turner continued describing how their breakthrough weapons had been created through unprecedented global cooperation that combined resources and expertise from every nation on Earth. The Quantum Disruptor Project involved a teenager in Australia, working with materials scientists in Germany, and theoretical physicists in Canada. Admiral Carter studied the human delegation carefully as she tried to assess their sincerity and determine whether their proposals represented a genuine offer or simply a negotiating tactic. The stakes were too high for any miscalculation or misunderstanding. Commander, what happens if the Empire rejects these terms? Helen asked directly, as she considered the military implications of continued conflict. Are you prepared to fight a war against the most powerful civilization in galactic history? Ambassador Green maintained her diplomatic composure, but her expression showed the steel resolve that had enabled humanity to survive countless challenges throughout their history. The answer to that question would determine the future of both civilizations. Admiral Humanity sincerely hopes that such a conflict will not be necessary, Janet replied carefully as she chose her words with precision. We have prepared for that possibility, but we believe that cooperation serves everyone's interests much better than warfare. The negotiations continued for 3 full days as representatives from dozens of Imperial member species participated through secure communication channels. Many civilizations that had been conquered by the Empire centuries ago watched with fascination as humanity demanded equal treatment and offered partnership instead of submission. Commander Danny Wright monitored the talks from his intelligence ship while continuing to gather data about human capabilities and intentions. The humans had spent the negotiation period upgrading their defenses and developing new technologies that Imperial sensors could not fully analyze or understand. The final agreement, known as the Terran Accords, established humanity as an independent ally of the Empire with complete territorial sovereignty over their home system and any future colonies they might establish. In exchange, humanity agreed to share defensive technologies with Empire members facing external threats. The Accords also created a new organization called the Interspecies Innovation Council, designed to accelerate technological development across the galaxy through cooperation rather than competition. Humanity would participate as an equal partner with the Empire in projects that benefited all member civilizations. 6 months after the signing ceremony, Admiral Carter stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Terra Station watching human and Imperial ships conducting joint training exercises. The sight of human vessels moving in formation with Imperial dreadnoughts would have been unthinkable just 1 year earlier. Commander Turner joined her at the viewing port, now wearing the insignia of the Interspecies Innovation Council, as he watched the mixed fleet maneuvers with satisfaction. The cooperation between former enemies had exceeded everyone's expectations and was producing benefits that neither side had anticipated. Admiral, are you comfortable with how rapidly everything has changed? Alex asked as he considered the transformation that had occurred in such a short time. A year ago we were preparing for war, and now we are working together on projects that will benefit the entire galaxy. Helen smiled as she watched the joint exercises continue with perfect coordination between species that had never worked together before. The cooperation had taught the Empire valuable lessons about the benefits of partnership over domination. Commander, your species has taught the galaxy that there is more than one path to advancement and prosperity, Helen replied as she thought about the changes humanity had brought to Imperial thinking. Sometimes the most unexpected developments lead to the best possible outcomes. The transmission ended with images of dozens of ships from various species working together to construct a massive research station where the greatest minds in the galaxy would collaborate on projects benefiting all civilizations. The age of Imperial dominance had ended, and the era of galactic cooperation had begun.